Welcome everyone. I'm really excited for today's conversation. My guest today is Morley Diment, Managing Partner at Diment Associates in Louisiana. Morley graduated from top 10 in his class and he's built his practice on creative deal making and unconventional approach to debt, asset, and business law problems and real estate. Morley, thank you so much for being here today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm
Yeah,
excited as well.
I'm very excited. Well, dive right into it. Molly, so you mentioned that you came from Michigan and you then relocated to Louisiana where you built your current law firm, Diamond and Associates. Can you walk us through how you made that transition and what it meant for for the way you think about starting and scaling a law firm operations business, especially with your business consulting and turnaround background?
Yeah, so I'm from Michigan originally. I am what is known as a Uper, so the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, north of Wisconsin. I went to law school in Alabama, so I was familiar with the South. Met my wife in Alabama. She's from Baton Rouge. We went to Michigan. I passed the bar there, started practicing, got very involved in my community from a legal standpoint. Was elected uh, the county bar president. I was appointed as a bar representative for the state of Michigan and the State Bar Association. Did all sorts of fun stuff. But my wife is from Baton Rouge, and the cold weather did not work so well for her. And so she told me, like, I don't know if I could do another one of these winters. And so we decided that we'd go to Baton Rouge, which is a bigger market than Escanaba, Michigan, where I'm from originally. Came down here in November of 2016. Um, and I took the bar in February of 2017, passed the bar, couldn't find a job, had to start a business, right? So the transition was very interesting because I went from a practicing lawyer to a not practicing lawyer because I wasn't licensed in Louisiana. I took a job at a car dealership, a large car dealership, see all of these different elements of business, right? So I got to see business from a service perspective. I got to see business from a leasing and rental perspective. I got to see business from a sales and product perspective of this large company. And when I couldn't find a job as a lawyer when I passed the bar, I started my law firm and focused mainly on money, on assets, on debts, on investments, on business. And so it's kind of interesting because there was no one that was really doing what I was doing. I don't want to say invented it because there's bankruptcy attorneys and there's business attorneys and all of this, but there's this kind of weird intersection where nobody was playing in that sandbox. And so, I went and built my sandcastle in that sandbox, and it's worked well for us. So we've grown. I've got 3 lawyers working underneath me, and we're doing quite well. So it's been an
Yeah,
interesting ride.
yeah, that's amazing. So you went from practicing attorney in Michigan and then
Mhm.
became sort of like a consultant for a large car automobile business, and now you are practicing again at the new law firm that you founded, right?
Yeah, so I founded it was a kind of serendipitous thing of being the consultant because I was actually hired to be the guy with the iPad that when you drove up to get an oil change, just like took your information to get your car started for the oil change. But because I had a law degree and was licensed in a state that they remembered that when this audit came, and I kind of just fell into that. I started the law firm in September of 2017 and have been going strong for the last now 8 years and
Wow,
counting.
that is amazing. So the consulting role sort of just you didn't try to find it; it just fell onto you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for young lawyers and entrepreneurs generally, when you're first starting out on your business, you have a lot of confidence in yourself because otherwise you wouldn't do this, right? But that doesn't mean that confidence translates out into something that you can package and hand to somebody. And so, being able to have that experience to lean on, it was kind of interesting because I kind of learned that I could do this without even having to think about whether I could or not. It was forced upon me, and that was a bit of a blessing, right? And so um, I I've done more business consulting since then for even larger companies than the one that I had worked with at the dealership. And it's been very interesting to interact with other business owners who are either in a distressed state where their business is no longer working the way that they want it to, or because of a law change or loss of a customer or what, like a big customer or something. And now their business isn't making sense the way it was 3, 6, 12 months ago. COVID opened a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
And also other businesses where it was like, hey, we started off with this small mom and pop thing where I was doing something in my garage and it exploded. And now I can't fulfill my orders. I'm behind. I don't know how to like scale up my manufacturing. I don't know how to scale up my delivery. Um, and a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with the idea of taking off hats, right? You start off, you open your business, and you wear all the hats. I used to joke saying that I was the managing partner of my one man law firm. I was also the office manager, the paralegal, and the janitor, right?
Yeah.
And small businesses start that way, but learning to take that hat off and let someone else wear it can be kind of anxiety inducing for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So how you had this consulting period of time, you still do it. How does that translate to the way you start your business, the Diamond Associates? Because a lot of lawyers that we interviewed in the past, when they first quit big law and start their own law firm, they thought, it was challenging for them, and they thought, we are I thought I just wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't realize that there's so much business that goes into starting a law firm. And then, of course. So
Sure.
how did you use all your business consulting skills and business acumen for your own, when you started your own business?
Yeah, so I kind of see it like it gave me a better fabric to start off my business with, but it also put me in a position where I had some overconfidence at times too, right? And so where I would see my peers who had started law firms, or there was one guy who he and his wife started a firm doing bankruptcy and immigration. Bankruptcy is a big part of my practice. I'm one of the larger bankruptcy filers in the state of Louisiana for consumers.
Hmm.
Um, and he and I started around the same time. His wife and I actually have one digit difference in our bar roll numbers, right? And watching the things they struggled with, I was kind of like, oh man, I know better than that. But then I would make a different mistake that they never really even got the opportunity to do because I was up and running and moving so much faster.
Right.
And so those missteps that I couldn't see coming came from overconfidence, which then, puts you in a position where you go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know as well as I thought I did. And it ultimately, it was kind of interesting because the final like nugget that I got to when everything else got boiled down
Yeah.
from all of my consulting is that no one knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
right? Everybody is always learning on the way, and that's life in general, whether it's in business, whether it's in law, whether it's in school, whether it's in your relationships, whatever it is that you're doing, no one has the answer. Your parents were no more like omniscient as adults than you are, right?
Yeah.
And all of these other business owners, all of these other attorneys, we're all just trying to do the best we can with the information we have.
Hmm.
And there's some peace in that when you look at it and go, okay, I'm special in my own ways, but I'm not that special in my problems, right? A lot of my problems are the same problems that my peers, my colleagues are having. And the best part about the consulting side of things was I'd have people who would come to me with a problem and go, hey, I have this problem. Can you help me solve this problem? And I'm like, well, that's a novel problem. I haven't dealt with that before.
Yeah.
And I would go, well, now I can solve it for you before I get to it, right? And so it allowed me to once again solve problems before I ever got to them myself. And so then when I did see, I'm like, oh, I know what this looks like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's amazing. So, for your specific practice, it looks as it's non-traditional and it's not like a typical law firm, which is really interesting for me. It really learned new things for for other law firms and other legal entrepreneurs that we interviewed. A lot of them, the process is very similar. It's the first the client intake, the marketing, and then the client intake, and then gather the documents, and then building a timeline, reading documents, and resolving a billing. Some of them are focusing on business. A lot of them are focusing on individuals. Would you say that for your specific niche, that's sort of the pipeline as well, or it will be much different?
Well, so when I was practicing in Michigan, the lawyer that I worked for used to joke that he practiced door law, which was if it comes to the door, he takes the case, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of small firms, when you're first opening your doors, or even other things, other businesses that are not law firms, we kind of have that approach. You have a customer come in and you're like, hey, I need some sales. And so customer comes in and has the problem and you're like, that's not really what I do. But you don't want to tell them that because you have a bird in the hand, right? And so I would say that the thing that was developmentally most interesting that you see with probably other the people that you deal with is that you're faced with a problem, and you can either solve it by yourself
Mhm.
or you can seek out someone to solve it for you. And innately, it's in our nature to kind of seek out to have somebody else do it for us because we're intimidated by the idea of failure. But one of the things that I've learned is there are experts in their field,
Yeah.
and there's people who say they're experts in their field.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult to distinguish from the two because the algorithms and the marketing dollars are more often than not the deciding factor of what gets in front of you, right?
Right.
Um, and so the best advice that I can give to my clients in those situations, and what I would give to anybody who is facing a growing pain, which is really what a lot of this stuff is, right?
Hmm.
Um, is take a breath,
Yeah.
look at the problem, and is this problem as big as it feels like it is, or is it something that you can look at, take the time to solve because you have other things to do with your time, but this problem can become this albatross that consumes you, and it really isn't that big of a problem. Like, for example, um, we hit a plateau of a certain number of bankruptcy filings per month, and it was my goal to reach this many. I was here, and we were going to do it in 2 years.
Right.
And in a year, we got to here, and I was like, "Oh, great!" And then soon we're going to be there. Well, no. Then for 2 years, we were here, and no matter what I did, oftentimes if I put Herculean effort in, and it'd go down, not up. And
Yeah.
the reason why is because what I was doing before that got me here is exactly what I needed to be here.
Yeah.
But I had to find something different to go from here to here. And although my focus was right up here and on this problem, that wasn't really where the issues were. It was infrastructure more often than not.
Right.
It was making sure I had the right people in the right spots. And it didn't matter what I was spending on marketing. It didn't matter what I was doing on throwing money at new technology or new software or new automations or whatever. None of that was actually going to take my business from the level that it was at to the level where I needed to go because it was business infrastructure. It was policies and procedures.
Hmm.
It was having the right people in the right place who could connect the dots to get you from there.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean um, for your own practice, for your own, the bankruptcy practice and business, sort of the legal consulting side of business. Um, how did you, going off what you said about the tweaking and growing pain, what does the pipeline look like now, and what did it take to get there?
Sure. So bankruptcy really is where consumer bankruptcy, Chapter 7s and Chapter 13s, is the first kind of niche I found.
Hmm.
And I worked that pretty heavily. The biggest thing that I found with trying to take your primary focus and broaden it or expand the amount of it
Yeah.
is kind of figuring out what the market will give you, right? So it's very, very difficult to advertise your way into a new level because the cost is usually prohibitive of that. The reason why someone else is getting the customers that you're not getting is because they're probably outspending you or they have a certain marketing strategy that's working. And you can throw everything at including the kitchen sink at trying to solve that problem, but you're fighting a losing battle, right? That other person already has that high ground and you're trying to take it from them.
Hmm.
We were able to expand because of COVID. What happened was other lawyers in other markets, so New Orleans and Lafayette and Lake Charles and Shreveport and Monroe and Alexandria,
Yeah.
all of them, when COVID happened, they went, oop, and they shrank. They cut off their marketing. They pivoted over to doing like title work
Yeah.
and all these things. And I was the like fifth largest filer in Baton Rouge at the time when that happened. And I looked at it and I noticed that all of a sudden my cost per click was going down when I was paying for my Google advertising. And I'm like, wait, why am I paying? I was paying X and now I'm paying Y.
Hmm.
And the amount of money that I'm paying is getting me more clicks, which is, if you know anything about Google advertising, it's kind of like the price of milk. It never goes down,
Yeah.
right? And so then I started looking around and realizing that all of that was the case universally statewide. And so the courts were all doing everything remotely. And so I just went statewide, expanded my marketing campaign statewide, and all of a sudden overnight, I'm a statewide firm instead of in Baton Rouge. And then when I shrank back down to being primarily in Baton Rouge, now I'm the largest filer in Baton Rouge because I was able to gain that mass and take advantage of what the market would give me.
Yeah. Instead of fighting
So
small pie, you basically aim for a bigger pie, and even a small piece in a bigger pie is a big piece.
yeah, exactly. And so once that happened, then I plateaued again. I'm like, all right, I can't really do more. I tried expanding into a different state. I tried going to Texas. That didn't work for me because the advertising dollars, the cost of that was too much. And I looked at it and went, okay, I can't compete in Houston, even with this reduced dollar amount. The cost of acquisition for a case in Baton Rouge was X, and the cost in Houston was 4X, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want 4X. And so then I started looking at it going, well, I need to do something different. I need to find something more here. And so I started looking for synergies, looking for something that fit within what I already had. How can I leverage my existing customer base? Or how can I find synergies that either my current practice feeds
Yeah.
or synergies that feed my current practice, right? Because a lot of times we want to build on the foundation that we have,
Hmm.
but people forget that you can also raise the foundation and put something underneath it, right? And feed into it too. So we moved over into family law at that time. And so because divorce and bankruptcy,
Okay.
if you look at the statistics of why people file bankruptcy, a top three reason is divorce. And if you look at the reason why people get divorced, top three reason is financial issues, right? And so there's this pairing there that no one was doing. And so I went and found a litigator who was a great attorney,
Right.
but not a very strong business person. And I don't think he'd be offended by me saying that. It wasn't his strong suit. His biggest two problems were, one, he couldn't find enough clients, and two, he didn't know what he was worth,
Hmm.
right? And so because of those two things, he had a limit on what he could produce in revenue per year.
Hmm.
And so we met, talked it over. I looked at his practice and had him meet my staff. We all made sure that this was going to work a little bit, kind of dated before we got married. And then I brought him in, acquired his family law practice. And, we've now been for 18 months. We've been doing divorces and custody work and all of this stuff. And just recently now, this month, we found a new synergy within the practice because we had someone come to us
Hmm.
who had a community property settlement. They had a divorce, a nasty divorce, that
Yeah.
there was like $300,000 in liquid assets that were being held by the court because they could not agree to how to divide this. And the lawyers that they had weren't fighting it out. They just kept asking for continuances. So this has gone on. This is a 3-year-long divorce.
Wow.
The divorce itself is done, but the property settlement hasn't. The divorce took 6 months, and we're 3 years into trying to figure it out, and they're no closer than they were day one. And so she contacted us and was like, I'm fed up with this. I just want this over. What can we do? And I went and looked at it and went, I mean, this is an asset and debt problem. So I'll put you in a bankruptcy. And then have the court, all this stuff would get moved over to the bankruptcy court. And I know exactly how this will get divided up. And so that was the game plan that we ran with. And I sent the family law attorney that we had, came on board to the case as well. And we, worked hand in hand to develop a strategy.
Hmm.
He went to court for the one time that we were going to have to appear for the community property settlement to let them know, hey, this is our game plan. And he mentioned the game plan to them. And immediately, all of a sudden, all the dominoes started falling. And my client ended up getting the whole kitty of it. The whole case got resolved in one day.
Wow.
Because the threat of this new direction
Hmm.
that they couldn't fathom, they couldn't wrap their heads around what this outcome was going to be. They were afraid of it.
Hmm.
And that fear led to them all of a sudden moving from a spot that they'd been entrenched in for 3 years. And so once that happened, the kind of funny thing was now all of a sudden, everybody that's got these community property cases that they're stuck on are calling us and going, hey, so I heard you took care of that case that was like going on for 3 years and wouldn't move. Would you be willing to take on this case? Because this is just a headache for me. And these are other attorneys trying to give me their case. because they don't want it anymore. It's just been a hassle for them. This is a case that I'm just losing money on as far as they're concerned. But for us, we now have an approach that we can take it that's different than anyone is expecting. And because no one has an answer for our strategy at this point, this is a horse we can ride for a while, and maybe it's something that'll end up becoming a whole new kind of niche on top of the two that we already have that are successful, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're basically the hard cases, like I'm thinking like doctors, like there's some symptoms that doctors couldn't figure out, and they refer them to a specialist who can creatively diagnose, make a diagnosis, and you're pretty much that person who creatively a magic wand and comes up with a solution that nobody else can solve.
yeah, I mean, and isn't that what lawyers are supposed to be?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about what most of our clients think of, they don't understand their problem, right? I have a spouse that I don't like and I don't want to be with. I want to divorce them. I don't know what that means. I know the word means that we're going to separate, but I have no idea about what that process is. I don't know how much this is going to cost me. I don't know what the time is. I just know the divorce sucks because that's what everyone tells me. Right? That's the client's perspective. The client's perspective on bankruptcy isn't okay. I would like to go and file a Chapter 7 under 11 USC, whatever. They don't get into all that. They go, I got too much debt. I got to get out from underneath it. It's stressing me out too much. Help. Right. And so if you think about your cases as problems that your client's asking you to solve,
Hmm.
it's a different thing. Instead of looking at it going, okay, a client came to me with a divorce case, and so I'm going to push the divorce button
Yeah.
and do everything that I've always done every time on it.
Yeah.
Every case can be different. And ultimately, when you're looking at trying to get the best result for your client,
Hmm.
I think you kind of have to look at every case differently. They may end up being the same. You may end up having a super simple case repeatedly, right? Simple case, simple case, simple case, simple case, simple case. That's true. That it can exist, right? You have the divorce where they have two cars, both of them have debt against them. They don't own a house. They have no kids. There's no assets to spread out. Very easy, simple divorce. You don't have to sit here and mull over it and think,
Yeah.
all right, how am I going to approach this case?
Yeah.
But when something does come to you and you look at it and go, oh, there's something novel here. This is the calling that we've chosen. This is the career we've chosen. And our clients are reliant on us to solve their problem. And ironically, they're asking us to solve a problem that they don't really know that they have
Yeah.
in a way that they don't understand.
Hmm.
Right. And so once you realize that's what your job is, then I think you kind of have to look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, if you build a very successful framework and you really got a great product offering, your niche and your talent and your problem solving skill, that's amazing. Looking at the next, looking forward for 12 to 18 months, I know right now technology development is a big thing. How would you think technology would, both impact law in general, but also your specific practice to help you with your scaling goals and your streamlining efficiency goals?
So um, law kind of is like government in a lot of ways, where technology doesn't keep we don't keep up with it as well, right?
Right.
And we don't understand it as well. That's why you see lawyers using AI and citing imaginary cases, right?
Yeah.
We don't really understand the technology that we're doing because we're just trying to wrap our heads around something that we don't have a forte in, right?
Hmm.
I think it goes without saying, as if you look at the environment and the landscape, that AI is going to have an impact somewhere.
Right.
Um, I when I look at my interactions with my clients, the way that we're trying to harness AI, which we are, we've gone through a couple different iterations of trying it. We're starting a new venture with another company now,
Right.
where the intention is to try and our clients have to get us documents, right? Well, it used to be when I first started doing this when I was a paralegal 15 years ago, 20 years ago, was you'd send your client to the bank to get their bank statements, right? You'd send them home and they'd go to their file cabinet and they'd pull out their mortgage statement to get you their mortgage statement. If they needed their pay stubs, they had those filed away for their taxes, and their taxes were filed away. Well, now everything we have is on this little device, and we have 16,000 passwords and two-factor authentication and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And people don't just have bank accounts anymore. They have Cash App, they have Venmo, they have Apple Pay, they have everything has so many more layers and complexities to it.
Hmm.
And it feels like human beings are less organized than ever.
Yeah.
despite having all of these organizational tools, right? Because we're reliant on being able to just, open your email app, which has all of your emails, and just search. You don't have to remember which email I used that for, or that, Carl sent me an email to. I can search all my emails at once. If I had to know the exact date, time that Carl sent it to me, I'm in trouble. And so what we're trying to use AI for at this point, which is, I think, when you talk technology these days, AI really is the only discussion that anyone's having,
Right.
is trying to use it to simplify things for our clients is the first and foremost. So, we want our clients to be able to communicate. I need help with getting my bank statements, and have the thing be able to tell them, okay, who's your bank? Well, this is the website for that bank, or you can download the app by scanning this QR code, right?
Right.
Because people want that level of handholding. They expect it, especially at the price point that attorneys are, right? We're not somebody you go and pay $20 a month for. We're not your $50 a month gym membership where you're going to go get your own towel and put it in the hamper, right? We're thousands of dollars.
Hmm.
And clients have an expectation of what they're going to get for that price point,
Yeah.
without understanding the costs of what it takes to actually deliver those expectations, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so AI, I think, and technology in general is a useful factor for that. We moved on to document portal.
Yeah, absolutely. Based on our interviews with other lawyers, there are so many touch points where they used, both the communication part with the clients, like you mentioned, the document review, and also the client acquisition part, like the initial intake or the initial general legal questions, and also the later, billing or case, drafting stuff, strategy, stuff like that. And like you said, it is really, it won't probably replace staff or anything like that, but it would, um, higher quality and lower cost for the clients and for the business as well.
If these things have this degree of sophistication, and if they're capable of doing things like, you see the AI videos that are being produced, and AI music, like, I am a huge fan of all. I have concerns about it for the artists, but I'm a huge fan of all of these, like, crossover AI generations, right, where you're taking, like, rock or hip hop and turning it into soul. I think that's cool. It's interesting and it's different, and it's the creativity level of it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at all of those things, and you look at the way that your office is run, you look at the pain points that you have, I think you can start to find ways where you're like, man, if I could have something that could do this, right?
Yeah.
If I could have something that should do just this one part, that could save me, 20 minutes out of every hour, which over the course of a week, you're talking about a tremendous amount of savings over the course of your year, your life. There's time there, right?
Well,
And so I look at that, and I think there's some possibility of being able to replace yourself to a degree, right? Not replace your staff where you have a whole role is taken off, but you can
right.
look at it and go, okay, my income calculations or my mean testing, yeah, I can get a generated report of that, and maybe all I need to do is confirm. I need to run some brief checks, and maybe I can use a spreadsheet to do that. I can run a spread. I have a spreadsheet where I type in these values, and it feeds me out like these different numbers, and I check that against what the AI did, and if it matches, then I'm in pretty good shape here, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I see those things. The other thing that I see with it, and this is a bit of a concern for lawyers because we bill hourly,
Right.
is something I kind of perceive as the Jetsons factor, right? So if you remember the Jetsons, it's kind of a joke in the Jetsons where George shows up for work, he clocks in, goes over, sits down, drinks his cup of coffee, gets up, clocks out, and leaves and goes home for the day, right? Like, his work is literally just drinking his cup of coffee and leaving because everything else is being taken care of for him. Well, for lawyers, as people who bill hourly, as Lincoln said, our knowledge and time is our stock and trade for lawyers. Well, if our knowledge is partially supplanted and the use of our time is mostly supplanted,
Mm-hmm.
then do we have something that we need to adjust existentially there with how we approach it? That's a possibility, and I think that there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same way as you're concerned, you can also look at it and go, okay, there's also an opportunity here, not
Right.
just for us, but for our clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make access to justice and law more affordable, which has been a theme in American jurisprudence and CLEs for 100 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, those are such great insights. Well, finally, um, don't want to, without making this too long, finally, what would be your advice, given your observation in technology, given your experience in business turnarounds, and given your expertise as a lawyer? What would your advice be for your fellow lawyers, legal entrepreneurs, or prospective legal entrepreneurs who probably currently work for a law firm and they want to start their own law firm? What would your advice be for them?
Um, I think I'd have to go with um, act like you belong there,
Hmm.
right? Be yourself, who you are. Don't try and be the lawyer that the client wants you to be. Don't try to be the lawyer that the judge wants you to be. Don't try to adjust yourself. Understand that what you have to offer is all of your strengths and your understanding, and sometimes your weaknesses. Because sometimes my weaknesses are what makes me take a case. I'll look at it and go, "Up, I got a bleeding heart for this guy, and I'm the only one that can help him." And that's a weakness for me. Like I took a case to stop a foreclosure on 48 hours notice.
Mhm.
I did it for $1,500, and the filing fee for the case was like $400, and so I made like $1,100 on this case that I did it on 48 hours notice. There's no business sense in doing that, but I was able to save this guy's home, and I'm the only one that could have done it. And that is from a business perspective partially a weakness, but that weakness also helps me build the reputation of who I am as a person that
Yeah.
my clients can rely on me for. And that's the best strength that I have. The best advertising that I have is the reputation that I build, and that doesn't come from me pretending. That comes from me being who I am, right? And so I think a lot of attorneys, especially starting out, if you don't come from a family of attorneys, or even if you do, you kind of get this imposter syndrome of walking into these hallowed halls, as they say, and everybody's in these suits, and they're all very rigid and stiff, and it's may it please the court, and there's all of this. But at the end of the day, there's humans underneath all of those fancy suits and behind those bow ties and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
And the best thing I can see when I look at the landscape that we have now with social media,
Right.
with all of this, is there's never been a time where people were more allowed to be who they are.
Right.
And so I think the best way for you to proceed is to start there,
Mhm.
start with who you are, because then you don't have to find yourself along the way. Otherwise, it's a much more like it took me a while to get to that. There's been plenty of times where I was trying to prove I belonged in
Mhm.
the way that I was approaching my cases, my colleagues, my opposition, my clients. I was trying to I'm the right lawyer for you, right? I either am or I'm not. I believe I am, or we wouldn't have this conversation. I wouldn't be proposing to solve that I can solve your problems if I didn't believe I was the right one. Now the question is, do you see me as the right one? If you do, hire me. If you don't, best of luck to you, and no harm, no foul. I wish you the best. And that sort of an interaction I've found actually makes the clients a little more comforted. There's not the hard sell of you need to hire me or I'm the guy or blah, blah, blah. It's just, hey, this is how I approach your case.
Yeah.
This is what I can do for you. And if I'm not the right guy for you, I am the right guy for them
Right.
somewhere over there. And they're going to find me and they're going to hire me and you're going to find the person, the guy or gal that's the right fit for you. And so have confidence in yourself, trust yourself. This is your practice and it's called a practice for a reason
Mhm.
because it's not meant to be perfect.
That's amazing. Yeah, be yourself. For fellow lawyers listening, yeah, the great advice of being genuine, being yourself, and clients will pick you up and they will see that.
Yeah, they want to know who they're hiring.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Molly. You has really you have been a very unique guest, and it's been really valuable to me to learn and to our audience, I believe, because you're really, you know, you merged your experience in so many areas, business, family, the bankruptcy, consulting. Your experience is very unique, and we're really happy to have you and had this conversation.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you. And it was nice to talk to you and look forward to maybe doing it again sometime.
Thank you, Morley.